All right, so we are going live, and I'm excited to be sharing what we're doing because it's going to be a very interesting thing. We got to get everybody up and going. Um, so we got YouTube up and going. We're going to get Instagram up and going. And then we're going to get there's Instagram. We're live there, and then we're going to be getting Facebook up and going, and we will go live there. So looks like we've started live video on LinkedIn. We have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Instagram, and I'm excited to be working as much as we possibly can to share what we've been doing over the last few months. And we've been working with clients all over the world, going through some of the biggest headaches and things they're running into. And one of the things that I love to share is the techniques and solutions we have found that works universally across it. So we're starting a program every single Monday. We are going to be here, or I'm sorry, Wednesday. Every single Wednesday, we're going to be here at 10:30 Central Standard Time. So feel free to take time and submit questions to us. But in 5 minutes or less, we want to show you how to retake your week back, both personally and professionally. So we are going to share some of the things that we've been experiencing, again, universally across a lot of our clients, and then any of you who are listening, any of the content that you've experienced or roadblocks you've experienced. Now is a time for you to reach out and obviously ask any questions. So we appreciate everybody who is actually in our studio, ready to ask questions. If you're on a social media platform, by all means, it might take a little bit of time to get the information to us. So submitting questions early is best. So we have 5 minutes. I've already taken up some of that time, but within the first 5 minutes of these live videos, we will be giving you answers that you can implement right away. So, one of the things that's going on in almost every client we work with, no matter what the vertical is, and for those who don't know what we do, we go into companies and help create what we call an LP architecture that allows individuals to maximize their ability so that they can help the company grow. So, by using personal development, we're able to experience professional development. And because it works both personally and professionally, what we're finding is it creates this thing that we call perpetual development. One of the key things to this is this word called accountability. We have clients who are doing accountability meetings on a weekly basis, as we suggest, because everything we need to check in on is about a weekly basis if you want the predictable results. But with that, I have found they don't always get the results that they want. So if you're in this conversation and you have accountability meetings with people in your team or on your team or who report to you, but we're not getting the results we want, I found there are two critical questions that are not asked or are forgotten when it comes through. So with that, when you do an accountability meeting, this is not a place where we check in on how you're doing. That's a whole nother meeting that we have set aside. And when it comes to these meetings, I have found that people will try to jam a bunch of different types of meetings with a bunch of different types of objectives to come through in this one short meeting. The problem is we have limited resources, we have limited time. So if we're wasting time doing things in an accountability that are not tied to being helping individuals be accountable to us, then we're wasting our energy. Now, when it comes to being accountable, please know we do not want to hire people that we need to hold accountable. We want to hire people who are willing to be accountable for what they've said. And in doing so, our job as managers is to help guide that process. So, how do we guide that process? We don't tell them what they should do, we just ask them questions. And then we take the emotions out of it and we have just simple, logical reasonings to figure out what we need to do next. So, let me give you the example. We sit down for an accountability meeting. First question I'm going to ask once that session starts, it could be part of a longer meeting, but once that accountability starts is, did you achieve your weekly standards or your weekly metrics or your KPIs or your OKR, whatever you're going to call these things? We've all rebranded them and repackaged them in different words so we can market it as a consultancy or as someone who's actually coaching. Did you achieve what you were supposed to achieve this week? And you go through whatever those metrics are, whether you have three of them, whether you have five of them, whatever they might be. Then the key is two questions at the end that I think are the most overlooked questions that just aren't asked by people. Number one, did you achieve the metrics we said to achieve? Yes or no. There needs to be an answer, yes or no. The first question, obviously, after you get that answer is why did you or why didn't you achieve those goals? And the key to all of these accountability meetings is we have to be okay with answering, I don't know, but we can't be comfortable with that being the final answer. So, why did you achieve the metrics we said? And then the first question is why or why not? I need a reason as to why this wasn't done. We've set these goals, we've set the objectives, and we should have hit it. Why or why not? And again, we have to get an answer. They might not know right away, but they have to come back with an answer. So, did you hit the goals? Why or why not? And then the second question is, what are you going to do this upcoming week to ensure that we hit the goals? Now, that doesn't matter whether they've hit them 50 weeks out of the last 50 weeks of the year. We got 2 weeks left. We still need to make sure that we are hitting the goals next week. And in doing so, what we will do is we will ask, what are you going to do to ensure that? Now, all we're looking to do is get commitments from people that we can then hold them to what they say. If we make up their commitments, if we make up what they're going to do to ensure it, we're not going to get what we need. So, with all of that, in these last 5 minutes, I want you to recognize that there are 2 questions that you can ask at any time to make any meeting an effective accountability meeting. After you find out that you do what needed to be done, you ask why or why not. And the second question is, what are we going to do to ensure that we will achieve them next week? See, the beautiful thing about all this is that you ask those 2 questions, it is now on the other person's plate for them to actually follow through with it. And that if that other person is you, there's now some personal accountability for us to follow through with it. And then if people don't do what they said they were going to do, that's a whole nother problem that we can walk you through on another one of these calls. So I appreciate every one of you being on here for these last 5 minutes. That's all you need for this week. Start implementing it right now. And I think you are going to see a massive increase in what you're doing on a regular basis. Now, for those who are part of this call, the 5 minutes is up. That's what we plan to share with you this week. But what I would ask is if you have any questions, whether you're in the live audience in the studio, whether you're on any of the social media platforms, our team is observing them, is what are some of the roadblocks that you're running into when it comes to these accountability meetings? Feel free to ask them and we'll answer them as they come. We have a little bit of time left. We have, after this session, we have what we call our LP Architect program. If you're not familiar with our LP Architect program, it is one of our top rated events that we do for individuals who want to come in, learn what we do when it comes to bridging the gaps, and then obviously implementing it in with their teams. We have our 4th session of our Q2 cohort that started and actually is finishing up this week. So with that, send over any questions and I'll answer a couple of them here. One of the questions we just got, how often should you be having these meetings? Well, I truly feel when it comes to trying to get stuff done, we need to take weekly planning and daily action. So if you're expecting people to make daily actions on it, I do feel we need to check base at least once a week. Are we getting where we need to go? And here's the reason why. Please understand this. This is not just so that we can hold people accountable and make them feel bad for not achieving what it is they were supposed to achieve. That's not the point of an accountability meeting. The point of an accountability meeting is to make sure people are accountable. So I think a weekly basis is a great cadence to make sure of that. All right. Next question. Somebody asked, how do you keep emotions out of these meetings? Well, the key to keeping emotions out of these meetings is number one, having proper expectations set ahead of time. And then number 2 is making sure that we're only talking about logical answers to questions. So, for example, did you hit this goal? Yes or no? I'm not bothered by your response of yes or no. What I'm interested in as a manager and someone who's willing to help someone stay accountable, right? Not, I don't hold them accountable. I help them stay accountable, is I ask them why, and I help them come up with the reason why they didn't achieve it. Now, that does not mean that we let people slide on all the things that they do, but let me understand why. Once I hear that reason, the second question, like we talked about, is incredibly powerful. What are you going to do to ensure that it happens next week? Because just because we made it this week doesn't mean we're going to get it next week, and so on and so on. So, what did you do, or what are you going to do to make sure it happens again next week? Where the emotions start to get pulled is when they start coming back to these meetings if they haven't achieved what it is that we do. But that goes back to the first question of how often should these meetings happen? And that's why I say on a weekly basis. And it should be an expected rhythm that people know, they understand, and they're prepared for. And why do I say it should be an expected rhythm? Simply because I feel that most people will be prepared after their first, second, or third accountability meeting. Whenever you introduce something new like this, whether it's our accountability meeting, whether it's our pulse check meeting, whether it's our gratitude meeting, whatever it is that we put into place when we work with clients and companies, there's always a little bit of a honeymoon phase, which is not so much of a honeymoon. What I mean by that, that's the introductory phase to these type of meetings that people aren't normally comfortable with. And because of that, if you give them a chance to walk through and give you the reasons, they're going to say, I don't know. But when you let them know that you're not going to accept, I don't know, you'll accept it in the meeting, but you expect them to get you an answer. All of a sudden, you're going to start seeing they will come more and more prepared. You see, people like these rhythms of these meetings. They also like knowing what they're getting themselves into. So if they're coming into an accountability meeting, they know it is expected of them to be accountable for what they've said they were going to do and the commitments they made to accomplish. If you have them come into a weekly checkup, a weekly check-in meeting, there's so many different things we can talk about, from problems they're having to mistakes they're making to just saying, how are you doing? Because of that, we want to be very clear. If we need to have a 1 week meeting that lasts more than 20 minutes, kind of a couple meetings at once, maybe an hour, then let's make sure that we're breaking up that agenda based on what it is we're trying to achieve. So great questions. Truly appreciate the questions about accountability. And again, for those who are just joining or just got in late, if you're wondering what are the 2 questions that we said we were going to share, after you go through your accountability meeting, after you ask, have you achieved the metrics that you were supposed to achieve, which is what starts the accountability meeting, the last 2 questions that we want you to ask is, number one, why did you or why didn't you? And they need to give an actual reason, not just an I don't know answer. And then the second is they need to make sure that they are going through and you're asking them, what are you going to do to ensure that you achieve it next week? So, with all that being said, if there's any more questions, obviously, please feel free to let us know. We are going to be doing these on a weekly basis. Not every single week am I going to be able to be in the studio here, so you'll get me on my phone, but you can tune in every single week, 10:30 Central Standard Time, for our Finish Strong program, where it's 5 minutes where we can show you exactly how we're helping other people all over the world in multiple different industries actually reclaim that week, get that week back where it needs to be, so you can finish strong for the next 2 days before you get to the weekend, and hopefully spend time doing more of the things that you love throughout your life. So, with that, I appreciate it. Everyone, have a great week, and we'll talk next week.